The 53-man roster is set for now, and we're going to go over the biggest surprises from the Jets in both cuts and who made the team. Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary, back with another video, and today I'm talking about the New York Jets cuts. Before we get started, just wanted to mention you can follow on social at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, Just Jets, new episodes come out. Well, I was going to say every Monday, but it's only really one more episode with it coming out on a Monday, and then it transitions to a Wednesday show during the season. You go to the midweek. Why? Well, it makes a little bit more sense because you preview the upcoming game, and then you could also talk about the game that just passed. There's no way that I'd be able to record on Sundays for a Monday release, so we move it to Wednesdays during the season. Also, shout out to True Classic for sponsoring this show. NFL is back, baby, and we want you to look your best when you're putting down a few adult beverages at your fantasy football draft. I had mine on Monday. I think I did pretty good in my draft, by the way. Our sponsors, True Classic, have the absolute best fitting tees that any man could buy. A lot of guys add a little bit more to their beer belly during the football season, and these tees are specifically designed to help hide that spare tire. I need it from all the wings that I eat. And if your lady is upset with you watching football all day, at least look good while you do it. That's all you could ask for. We've all been there. Finding the right t-shirt with a little bit of a dad bod is incredibly frustrating, but most t-shirts, they're either way too tight around the gut or they're way too loose and boxy. Not this shirt. It fits you tight up top, which you want. You get the chest popping, the arms popping, and a loose around the stomach. It's the best of both worlds. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find a better fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get 25% off with my code, MATT25. Make sure to check it out. Get yourself a pack of the t-shirts. It's worth your while. They're so comfortable. So yesterday's video, we already had some news on some cuts like Javelin Guidry and Chris Streveler. We talked about why, I thought Chris Streveler did enough to show that he, could be on an NFL roster, but they decided to keep Mike White, which isn't super surprising when you know how much the Jets love Mike White. Javelin Guidry, again, if you missed yesterday's show, just briefly catching you up on why that one surprised me is because outside of Michael Carter II, I'm not sure who the backup slot's going to be. I saw a lot of people in the comments say DJ Reed. Yes, he did play slot in years gone by, but I don't think he was signed and brought in here to play the slot. I think he's probably someone who is, they paid starting money who's going to play on the outside. LaMarcus Joyner, I guess, also played slot, not very well, and he is old and often injured. So we'll see what the plan is there. Maybe that's a position the Jets look to add some depth in. Tanzel Smart is a name that was cut that was moderately surprising. Obviously, on the defensive line, they were going to have some tough decisions to make. We talked about Bradley and I was another one that they decided to cut. But I thought Smart played well, and especially on the interior. I'm going to get ahead of myself. I'm going to do Jet surprises on the roster, but there is someone who made the team who's going to play on the interior over Tanzel Smart, which I find a little bit surprising. So we're going to get into that in a little bit here, but no Tanzel Smart. Now, both Connor McDermott and Chuma Edoga got cut, and mixed feelings here. Look, obviously, I'm not rooting for anyone to lose their jobs. It's a very tough time of year, and these guys, they put their life on the line to play football for our entertainment. So when these guys get cut, it's really a shame. But in a way, I was surprised that Connor McDermott and Chuma Edoga both were cut, not because, as harsh as this may sound, not that they weren't necessarily deserving of getting cut, but it's what's the plan for backup tackle? Are they going to bring in another backup tackle? Because right now it's only Max Mitchell. And my own personal opinion, but I think Max Mitchell is kind of exclusively a right side guy. I don't think he could play on the left side, where not that Udoga and McDermott necessarily thrived on the left side, but they were able to do it. So maybe the Jets are going to be looking at guys who they could potentially bring in at that position. I think that's something that could make sense for them at offensive tackle, because right now a little bit barren. Also, Tevin Coleman was cut, which I kind of called that one, and I'm a little bit happy about it. But then at the same time, I way missed on another running back that they were going to keep. More on that later too. But Tevin Coleman, a relatively surprise cut. He's a little bit older, and he played well last year. I thought Tevin Coleman showed that he has, enough in the tank. But to me, I was so impressed with Bam Knight, the undrafted free agent running back, Zonovan Knight, and what he did in the preseason, and just his overall pedigree, that I thought, look, he's got to be RB3. I think he's done enough to prove that he could be RB3. And while Tevin Coleman is a veteran, it would add a little bit of a veteran presence to that room. I get that. I appreciate it. I think the value that Zonovan Knight gives you as a rusher and then also on special teams was enough to make you say, okay, let's keep this guy anyway and move on from the veteran and Tevin Coleman. I like that the Jets were in a position to do that, because in years gone by, I mean, you guys know, you're Jet fans watching this video, they don't usually have the kinds of depth where you can move on from a guy like that and feel comfortable, but I do. And the last two that were surprising both come at the same position, and that's Will Parks and Jason Pinnock, both safeties. We'll start with Will Parks. I thought he had a really good training camp. I thought he flashed a little bit in the preseason, and thought maybe he had an outside chance to start. Again, I'm not really sold on the Jets' free safety position. Right now, you'd imagine it's LaMarcus Joyner, but beyond that, Will Parks, I thought he played well. And Jason Pinnock, yeah, they're going to try to stash him on the practice squad. I understand the logic there, doing that, but I was surprised because the Jets really talked up Pinnock a lot. He started for this team at safety, only a few games at the end of the year, but still, he was a 5th or a 6th round pick last year. I was really surprised that he ended up not making the roster. Another draft pick from last year, Hamza Nasruddin, was cut, which wasn't as surprising because of just the injury last year, and he really hasn't developed like I thought he would. Making that transition from safety to linebacker hasn't really gone too well for him. Jamien Sherwood, who did make the team, I think has handled that a lot better. But with Jason Pinnock, man, he's going to, fingers crossed he makes it through the waiver wire and gets hit on the practice squad. But, it's a guy who I thought realistically, I thought he was going to be groomed this year to potentially take over from someone like LaMarcus Joyner as a potential starter in 2023. That's how much the Jets like this guy. So that one came as a surprise to me, but NFL's a business. Now to the surprise people that did make the roster. So we did surprise cuts. Now these are people who surprised me that did make the roster. First one on my list is Ty Johnson. That was a running back that I was hinting at before, where I was like, how did he make the team? So the Jets decided to carry 4 running backs, and Tevin Coleman not being one of those 4 is a little surprising. I don't necessarily look at Zonovan Knight over Tevin Coleman. I look at Ty Johnson over Tevin Coleman because if I were to keep a 4th running back, then in that case, I probably would have kept Tevin Coleman. But look, Johnson in 2020 looked good. Last year was almost about as bad as it possibly gets. Can't pass protect. Too many drops in the passing game. I liked his potential in 2020, but man, did he really go off the rails. And I thought guys like Bam Knight really passed him by, which, Bam also made the roster, but Ty Johnson sticking around was a little surprising. Vinny Curry is one that I'm surprised, but not mad about. I like Vinny Curry as a veteran presence in this room. I think he still has a little something left in the tank. I thought they'd go a little bit younger there, and maybe they eventually move on from him if they sign some other guys to add to this roster. But maybe they were just worried about Vinny not making it through to the practice squad, where guys like Bradley and I probably has a better chance of reaching the practice squad. So maybe that was the logic there. Nathan Shepard making this team, he's like a walking penalty. I am all good on Nathan Shepard. That one was really surprising. How Nathan Shepard made the team over Tanzel Smart, I don't quite understand. That was a bizarre decision. That he's the what's the bug? I almost said cricket. It's not. It's the cockroach during the nuclear explosion. Nathan Shepard represents the Mike McCagnon draft classes somehow, and he's still kicking out of all of them. You had guys like Darnold gone, Jamal Adams gone. All those guys just gone, didn't make it. But Nathan Shepard somehow is still kicking. 4 or 5 years later? It's unbelievable. And then the last 2 surprise ones for me, I'm going to group together because of the same position: Ashtyn Davis and Tony Adams. So we'll start with Tony Adams. We'll close out with Ashtyn Davis. Tony Adams, another undrafted free agent, was someone who they seem to be very, very high on. A really good RAS score. I think he's definitely a developmental guy, so he's going to sit. But with how this roster is constructed, I think Ashton Davis is going to have to play. And he is a very, very, very good athlete, right? Track star in college, late transition to football. But his football IQ was what I was going to say, but that kind of makes it, that's a little harsh. But maybe football instincts, that might be a better way of saying it, or at least a kinder way of saying it, is lacking. And for instance, like the angles that he takes in the run game, he had some forced fumbles last year and a couple picks. I think Tua, hit him right in the chest, and he had an interception, which is great. I love the fact that he was able to capitalize on turnovers and stuff like that. But the inconsistencies, man, he is just, I don't know. That one really surprised me. Jet fans were really riled up about this one on the Talking Jets panel last night. It was me, Ryan Greenbean as usual, but then we also had Jake Asman for an hour, which was an absolute blast. If you missed the show, head over to Ryan's channel when you're done and go back and watch, because it was a ton of fun. Poor Greenbean, man. He was down bad after some of his guys, Kenny Aboa, Michael P. Ryan, Bradley and I think is another one of his guys. All three of those guys cut. His dog ate his hat. Yes, Greenbean's legendary hat. R.I.P. in peace, Dunzo. And next week, I think we're having on Joe Blewett from Jets X Factor. Pretty sure that's who it is next week. I love doing that show. It's so much fun. So if you don't check that out, please make sure to do so. And we were just going through, there were super chats and there were comments. We were all, bouncing ideas off each other about the roster. And Ashton Davis was one that kept coming up a lot for why did he make the team? And I don't have a good answer for you. My only rebuttal for why I guess he could make the team would be that the Jets really like his athleticism. You can't take away this man's athleticism. You can critique a bunch of other things in his game, but maybe they think that you can't teach his athleticism, but they could teach him how to play football. Don't know. That's my hot take on it, I guess. But yeah, that's it. Let me know what your biggest surprises from yesterday were in both either guys who got cut, guys who made the roster. Sound off in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I will catch you next time.